Okay, thank you, Mr. Olaumi and Olajide for the presentation. My name is Ijoma, and I'll be the host for the Windows Virtual Desktop demo. All right. Thank you for sticking with us till this very moment. The demo is going to be very brief and straight to the point. All right. So it's going to be broken down into three parts. The first part is the platform on Azure. All right. What components do we have in the platform, and what are their functions? Then the second one is the security features and the user's experience. How are the users going to be able to, view their virtual desktop? What is the experience going to be like? Is it going to be seamless? Is it going to be the same desktop that you've always been able to access? Then the last one is the management. How do you manage the Windows virtual desktop? All right, so let's dive straight in. So the first thing I'm going to be showing you is the platform on Azure. As you can see on my screen right now, this is the portal for Azure, and I'm currently looking at the WVD resource group where we deployed the demo for this, for this session. All right, so the first thing I'm going to be talking to you about is the different components. The first component we have here is the virtual machine session host. All right, for this particular demo, we have just two, and these are the virtual machines that your users are going to be sharing, all right? Because we know that one of the huge benefits of WVD is the fact that you can save costs. So you have the ability to be able to share one virtual machine across 5 people. All right, so the second one is the second virtual machine. And the next I'll be talking to you about is the domain controller. We all have Active Directory in our environment today. So domain controller is a key component in WVD. So depending on where you are in your journey to the cloud, all right, if you're predominantly on premises, then we're likely going to be deploying a copy of your AD in the cloud. Then the next component is the file server. My colleague Olawale talked about the different storage strategies we can use for Windows Virtual Desktop. What we use here is file server, and a lot of companies today use file servers in their environment. So if you're currently using a file server and you want to continue using that storage method, we're going to continue using that for you. Then the last here is the golden image. All right, so let me explain this a little. So when an employee joins your organization for the first time, you pick up a system and you want to prepare that system for that employee. And in that system, you are installing all the required apps that they need to be able to be productive. That is exactly what you are doing with this golden image. So in this golden image, you are installing all the apps that you're going to use to roll out the session virtual machines that your users are going to be sharing. So if you know all the apps that you normally use to prepare the system for new employees, those are all the apps you're going to be slamming onto this golden image. Then the next I have here is, I'm going to be showing you what is happening in the file server. All right, this is the file server I talked about. My colleague talked around the containerization using the FS logics. This is a very, very important component because these are where all your Office profiles and user profiles are stored. All right, so because you want your users to maintain a persistent desktop, you want them to have access to the same content across all devices, because we know that the desktop is virtual. They will be able to access their virtual desktop from anywhere. And being that they are sharing virtual machines among multiple people, how are they going to be able to maintain that same persistent desktop each time they log in into different virtual machines? So this is what we are using to control that. So you have Office profiles. You can see the different users that have signed in into this system, into this WVD platform. They have different profiles already created for them. This is for the user profiles. We have profiles containers for all the users that have ever signed in into this platform. All right, so this is how we are able to use the FS logics to create containers for the different users. Then this is the domain controller. So in the domain controller, the first thing we are going to do is to create a security group for all the users that are going to be accessing the WVD platform. It's very, very important because any user that is not a member of this security group will not be able to log in to access their virtual desktop. So that is the first thing that we'll do, do this and assign all the users here. Then the next thing is for the session host as well. The virtual machines that users are going to be sharing, all right? If you have deployed the WVD with about 5 virtual machines, and as users continue to use the platform, you realize that you need to, upscale, all right? When you upscale and you deploy more virtual machines, you'll be adding those virtual machines here as well. All right, then this is it for the domain controller. We've created all our users. And another component of WVD is the Azure AD Connect. This is what you are going to be using to sync identities from the on-premise Active Directory to Azure AD for single sign-on. So you can see my Azure AD Connect right on the desktop. So the next component we'll be talking about is the security. How secure is this platform? So the first thing we did here is we implemented what we call a trusted name location. This particular demo environment, we have users across both Ghana and Nigeria. Those are the locations where the users work from. So we have locked it down to 2 countries, Nigeria and Ghana. So what does this mean? It simply means that users within these countries are the users that will be able to access this platform. So if you're outside this location at any time, it means that you will not be able to have access. Then the second security feature we implemented is using the conditional access, which my colleague Olawale touched around. All right, conditional access is a very key component in the WVD platform. All right, so if today you're currently using Office 365 and you have AD Premium, you can have access to this feature. So what are we doing with conditional access? With conditional access, you can specify different conditions around how you want your users to be able to access data. All right, so for this particular one, we have specified that we want only users that we added to the security group to be able to access the WVD platform. You remember the security group we talked around in the AD? Yes, so we have specified here that if the users are a member of this group and they are trying to access these apps, which is the Windows Virtual Desktop, all right, enforce multi-factor authentication. All right, so it means that each time your users try to access their virtual desktop, they are going to be asked to, authenticate using the code that was sent to their phones. So the next part we are going to be talking about is, user experience. How will your users access their virtual desktop? What is their experience going to be like? So the first here is using a browser. So you can pick up any device, whether mobile or desktop or PC or laptop, and you go to this URL, the rdweb.wvd.microsoft.com. So when you enter this URL on your browser, it's going to ask you for an identity. So this is the identity we are using for this demo. We enter it and it prompts us for multi-factor authentication, and we are able to authenticate. All right, so while it's authenticating, let's talk around some of the benefits of Windows Virtual Desktop. What are the huge benefits of WVD? One of the benefits is the fact that in this era of COVID-19, a lot of businesses are looking at how to cut down on cost. So we're going to be seeing scenarios whereby organizations are going to be enforcing the bring your own device, all right? We no longer want to purchase new laptops anymore. If you have high-end systems, high-end mobile devices that you use, bring them, complement us with that, and we'll give you access to all the productivity tools you need to be able to, work efficiently. All right, so what is another benefit? Another benefit is around disaster recovery. Because your desktop is not resident on your laptop or on your PC, nothing can happen to your data. So if you have a flat battery, you can pick up the next available system and continue working like nothing happened. If anything happens to your PC, your hard disk crashes, in this era of COVID-19, where we are all working remotely, how are you going to recover? Yes, you can recover, but it's going to take you some time. You're going to be traumatized for some time. But with the Windows Virtual Desktop, you don't have anything to worry about. You pick up the next available system and you have access to your virtual desktop. All right, so we are now logging into the virtual desktop. We're going to be seeing what the virtual desktop looks like. So this is the virtual desktop for this particular user. All right, it looks exactly the same like your Windows 10 desktop. Unless you tell someone that you're using a virtual desktop, they are never going to believe it. All right, so it's pretty the same thing. I have my Outlook, I have my productivity tools, I have my Teams, I have my custom apps, as you can see on my desktop. All right, I would also like to state that depending on where you are on your cloud journey, all right, your deployment for WVD is going to be different. So the first thing we do is come in, do an assessment, assess, design, and implement. All right, so this is the experience on the browser, which is pretty straightforward, like you are using, all right, your normal desktop, like, or let you tell someone that you're using a rented desktop, they are never going to believe it. So that is the experience on the browser. The next experience is using the remote desktop app. So this remote desktop app is available on any Windows 10 machine. All right, so you quickly click on it and you try to subscribe and it presents to you the login page where you enter your identity. So when you've entered your identity, it's going to prompt us for multi-factor authentication. And when you have entered that, you'll be able to have access to the same desktop. So if you notice, I didn't sign out from the browser. All right, I did that on purpose because even if you have issues with your laptop, the battery goes flat, and you need to pick up the next available device to access your Windows virtual desktop. All right, it's going to automatically log you off from the other session and log you in to this session. All right, it is very, very intelligent, and another benefit of Windows Virtual Desktop is the cost savings. All right, it's very cost effective because you are sharing systems across multiple people. So you can decide that you want five people to be able to share one virtual machine. All right, so imagine saving the cost of 5 PCs. Compare that to just buying only one system. All right, so this is our desktop via the remote desktop app. All right, still the same environment, still the same view, nothing different. As you can see, it also disconnected me from my browser, all right, to allow me sign into the remote app. All right, so I'm seeing the same content. So this is where the containerization comes in, all right, because you are logging into a virtual machine and your data is being stored in the file server, all right, because each time you log into a virtual machine, all right, you're not accessing the same virtual machine. You're accessing different virtual machines at different times, depending on how many people you have logged into the platform. All right, so what it does is it shares these resources across multiple people to help you save costs. So the next session we are going to look at is accessing the Windows Virtual Desktop via a mobile phone. So I'm showcasing the feature via the iOS. So this is an iPhone, and I'm using it to log into the Windows Virtual Desktop platform. So what you just need to do for this particular form factor is to download the remote desktop app from your app store. So once you download it and you enter your details, it will authenticate and give you access to the WVD platform. You're going to notice and realize that it's still the same desktop, still the same content, all right, still the same persistent desktop, nothing changes, all right, all the files I have stored on my desktop is still the same. So you can pick up any device at any time from anywhere and access your virtual desktop. All right, so this is it for iOS. I'm going to be showing you the same for Android. So we have this desktop app across all form factors. All right, so you can use a browser, you can use a desktop, you can use mobile devices, and the experience is pretty the same. So if you have high-end devices today, all right, and you want to implement and adopt the bring your own device strategy, this is the right time to do it. Because come to think of it, there are times when we have employees join the organization, and when they join the organization, they have good systems that they can use to work. But what do? We tell them to keep it aside and we prepare another system for them to, be able to carry out their duties productively. But in this era that we're looking at cutting down on cost, and in this era that Microsoft has given us a platform to be able to cut down on cost, we should adopt and implement the Windows Virtual Desktop platform. So this is what it looks like on an Android device. All right, this is a Samsung device, and I'm trying to access my WVD desktop. So it's pretty the same experience across all form factors. There are no difference. All right. So we log in into the virtual desktop, and we are going to be seeing all the same apps that we have been able to access. All right. So after this particular session, the next one we are going to be talking about is how do you manage your Windows virtual desktop. All right. So managing the Windows virtual desktop is pretty straightforward and pretty easy to an extent. All right. So you can So managing your Windows Virtual Desktop, you can achieve that using different methods. The primary method to do that is using PowerShell. But if you are not very familiar with using PowerShell, you can use different management applications. So the first one I have is what I have on the screen. All right, you can use this app to manage everything Windows Virtual Desktop, both the virtual machines on Azure and your users logged into the session host. All right, so one of the things you can do with this is to be able to deploy more apps to the app pool. You don't have to use PowerShell for that. All right, another thing you can do is to remove users from an app pool. All right, like we talked around security, if just like you have users that you have created a particular security group, and I said that only users that belong to this security group will be able to access the Windows Virtual Desktop. Yes. But down to the WVD layer, you also need to specify which users you want to be able to access the different pools. So like my colleague talked around the full desktop and the remote app. So we have the desktop pool and we have the remote app pool. All right, so you have the ability to be able to add users and remove users easily using this app. All right, another thing you can do with this app is you can specify your load balancing strategy. All right, you can decide that, okay, I'm using the depth first, and in the depth first, what does it do? It gives you the ability to define how many sessions you want each virtual machine to consume. All right, so if, for example, you have 5 virtual machines and you have about 25 people in your organization that are accessing the platform, you can specify that you want 5 sessions per each virtual machine. So it means that you are sharing a particular virtual machine among 5 people. You can achieve that directly from this management app. All right, you can remove users and you can add users. So another thing you can also do with this management app is monitor the number of people logged into the Windows Virtual Desktop platform. All right, so if you look down at the user sessions, you are going to be seeing that I just have a particular user, which is me, that logged in into using my mobile app. You can log the user off. You can send a message. So it's possible that the user is not supposed to be logged in at that time, and you want to log the user off. So you can send a message to the different users logging in into different virtual machines and tell them that you need to log them off. So they'll get the message directly on their virtual desktop, all right, and they will get the message immediately. All right, that is one way to manage it. Another way to manage this using this application is to log the user off. So if the user is not supposed to sign in at that time, or you want to do a maintenance, a quick maintenance or a quick change, all right, you can send a message to all the users logged into the session, or you can log them out automatically right from the management app as the IT administrator. All right, another thing you can do with this management app is the fact that you can start the virtual machine, you can stop them, you can roll out a new session host and add it to the current host pool. All right, you can also shut down the domain controller. All the virtual machines you have, currently on the WVD platform, you can shut them down from here. You can roll out a new session host directly from this management app. So you decide that you realize that from the reports, you have a lot of people accessing the Windows Virtual Desktop platform, and you want to increase the number of users. You want to increase the number of session hosts so that you can have more virtual machines for users to share. So it looks like a lot of users are beginning to adopt the solution, and you want to increase. So you can easily come here and roll out another VM instead of going to the Azure portal to do that. All right, so this management app can do that for you. All right, so everything that you need to be able to manage the Windows Virtual Desktop, you can achieve that using this app. Right here, you can increase the number of sessions. I've talked around that. All right, you can also do automations, like you want to be able to save cost. You don't know how many people will be signing into the platform at a time. So you want the platform to automatically spin up a virtual machine, all right, when a particular virtual machine is full. So you have specified your load balancing strategy that you want only five sessions per virtual machine, all right? And you want to automatically spin up a new virtual machine when the 5 session is filled up into a particular virtual machine. So you can actually implement that using the automation scripts and logic apps and all of that. All right, so that is basically it for the demo session. All right, and please, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A. All right, and I'm going to be handing over to my colleague, Ola, to take it off from here.